Hello everyone, welcome to our channel of comments and answers TJ. I hope you all are doing well. In this video, we will analyze and answer the questions from this week's Watchtower study. The study corresponds to the week of June 2nd to 8th and is titled, "The Hand of Jehovah is Not Too Short." Without further ado, let's begin. Let's look at the first question. How did Moses demonstrate his trust in Jehovah when he led the Israelites out of Egypt? Moses demonstrated his trust in Jehovah when he led the Israelites out of Egypt, confronting Pharaoh and his army without fear. He showed firm faith by following Jehovah's instructions, such as when they crossed the Red Sea and traversed the desert, trusting that Jehovah would provide for them. Additional comments. In Hebrews 11:27-29, Moses' faith is highlighted as he did not fear Pharaoh and obeyed Jehovah's instructions, guiding the Israelites through difficult circumstances. This example teaches us that faith in Jehovah requires courage and action, trusting in his power even when circumstances are uncertain. In Exodus 15:22-25, we see how Jehovah provided food and water for the Israelites in the desert, showing that even when circumstances seem adverse, we can trust that Jehovah will provide what is necessary. Moses teaches us that trusting in Jehovah is not only an act of faith but also a way of living with certainty in his care and provision. Let's look at the second question. Why did Jehovah ask Moses the question we find in Numbers 11:21-23? Jehovah asked Moses this question because, despite his great faith, Moses doubted how Jehovah could provide meat for millions of people in the desert. It was difficult for him to imagine how God would fulfill that promise, so Jehovah asked him if he thought his power was limited, meaning, if he could not do what he had said. Additional comments. In Numbers 11:21-23, Jehovah uses the expression, "the hand of Jehovah," to refer to his power. This question highlights that God's power has no limits, teaching us that we should not doubt Jehovah's promises, even when circumstances seem impossible. We can fully trust that he has the power to fulfill everything he promises. Jehovah's question in Numbers 11:23 invites us to reflect on our own faith. Sometimes, like Moses, we may doubt God's ability to provide what we need. This passage teaches us that Jehovah has unlimited power and is always able to do what he promises, no matter how difficult it seems. Let's look at the third question. Why is it important that we analyze what happened to Moses and the Israelites? It is important to analyze what happened to Moses and the Israelites because their experience teaches us about the importance of trusting that Jehovah will always provide what we need. Despite witnessing his power, the Israelites lost faith and doubted his ability to care for them. Reflecting on this helps us strengthen our own trust that Jehovah will never forsake us. Additional comments. The example of the Israelites shows how, despite past blessings, uncertainty can make us lose faith in God. It is crucial to remember that, as the Bible says, Jehovah's hand is never too short to help us, regardless of the circumstances. Analyzing what happened to Moses and the Israelites invites us to reflect on our own faith. When we face difficulties, it's easy to doubt that God will provide what we need. However, Moses' experience shows that we can always trust that Jehovah will fulfill his promises. Let's move to the first subtitle. What does the example of Moses and the Israelites teach us? Let's look at the fourth question. Why did many Israelites start to doubt that Jehovah could care for them? Many Israelites started to doubt that Jehovah could care for them because they grew tired of eating only manna. After so much time in the desert, they began to complain because they missed the food from Egypt. Moses, seeing the people complaining, felt that he had to do something to give them meat, as they were asking for it. Additional comments. In Numbers 11, 4-6, it shows how the Israelites, tired of eating manna, began to complain, forgetting the blessings Jehovah had given them. This passage teaches us that when we are dissatisfied with what we have, we can fall into the trap of losing faith and forgetting that Jehovah always takes care of us, even when we don't have what we want. Although Jehovah gave them manna, the Israelites wanted more and didn't realize what they already had. In Numbers 11, 13-14, Moses faced the pressure of the people to give them meat, showing how the desire for something different can make us forget God's provisions. This example reminds us of the importance of maintaining faith in what Jehovah has already given us, even if it's not always what we expect. Let's look at questions 5 and 6. What do we learn from the bad influence the foreigners had on many Israelites? The Israelites were influenced by the foreigners' lack of gratitude, which led them to complain about what Jehovah gave them. This teaches us that we can also be influenced by the attitudes of those around us, which can make us feel dissatisfied with what we have. It is better to learn to be thankful for what Jehovah has given us. The Israelites should have remembered that Jehovah promised them abundance in the promised land, not while they were in the desert. Similarly, we should not focus on what we don't have in this world but reflect on the promises Jehovah has for the future. Additional comments. In Numbers 11, 4-6, the Israelites began to complain when they saw the ungrateful attitude of the foreigners, showing how others' attitudes can affect us. This passage teaches us that we need to be aware of the influences around us, as others' complaints and discontent can make us lose gratitude for what Jehovah has already given us. It's important to learn to be grateful and not be dragged by negative attitudes. In Deuteronomy 8:15, Jehovah reminded the Israelites that the blessings would come when they reached the promised land, not while they were in the desert. Just like them, we should remember what Jehovah has promised for the future, such as the new world, and not focus on what we lack now. This text reminds us to focus on the blessings Jehovah has promised, which strengthens our hope and trust in Him. Let's look at the seventh question. Why can we be sure that there are no limits to the hand of Jehovah? We can be sure that there are no limits to the hand of Jehovah because His power is infinite and can reach anywhere, no matter how difficult the situation. Jehovah showed Moses that His power never runs out and He can always fulfill what He promises, as He showed by giving the Israelites meat in the desert. So, when we face trials, we can trust that Jehovah will reach us, no matter where we are. Additional comments. In Exodus 6, 6. Jehovah uses the expression, with an outstretched arm, to show his unlimited power. This passage teaches us that there are no barriers to what Jehovah can do. Just as he was able to free the Israelites, we can be sure that he has the power to help us at any moment in our lives. In Psalm 138, 6, 7, it says that Jehovah is near to the humble and rescues us when we need him. This text reminds us that no matter how far we may be from him, Jehovah has the power to reach us. His hand is never too short to help us, even in the most difficult situations. Let's look at the 8th question. What should we do to avoid making the same mistake that many Israelites made? See also the image. To avoid making the same mistake that many Israelites made, we should be careful with greed. Although Jehovah sent them quail in abundance, the Israelites were dominated by the desire to accumulate more and more, forgetting to be thankful. This example teaches us that the most important thing is not to accumulate material wealth, but to focus on treasures in heaven, strengthening our relationship with Jehovah and Jesus. If we do this, we can trust that Jehovah will give us what we need. Additional comments. In Numbers 11, 31-34, the Israelites showed greed by wanting more than what Jehovah had given them, which provoked his anger. This passage teaches us that we should be grateful for what we have and not be led by selfish desires that distance us from what really matters, our relationship with Jehovah. Jesus taught us in Matthew 6, 19-20 that we should focus on accumulating treasures in heaven and not on material wealth. By doing so, as also mentioned in Luke 16:9, we are investing in what truly matters, our friendship with Jehovah and Jesus, which assures us that he will provide what is necessary. Let's look at the 9th question. What can we be sure of? We can be sure that Jehovah will never abandon us, although this doesn't mean that we will never face difficulties such as lack of money or food. He will always give us the strength needed to endure any trial. We should trust in him, whether facing financial problems or planning for our material needs in old age. Additional comments. In times of financial difficulty, we can trust that Jehovah will give us the strength to endure. In Matthew 6:25-34, Jesus reminds us not to worry about what we will eat or wear because Jehovah knows what we need and will provide for us if we trust in him. When making plans to cover our needs in old age, we should remember that Jehovah will provide for what is necessary. In Philippians 4:19, we are assured that, "My God will supply all your needs according to his riches in glory," which gives us the certainty that we can trust him at any moment in our lives. Let's move on to the second subtitle, When Facing Economic Problems. Let's look at question number 10. What economic problems could we suffer from? We may face economic problems due to political instability, wars, natural disasters, or new pandemics. We could lose our job, material possessions, or our home. In this case, we may need to look for a new job or even move to another place with our family. What can help us make decisions with confidence is remembering that Jehovah will always help and guide us, trusting in his protective hand. Additional comments. When facing difficult situations, such as losing a job or the need to move, we should remember what Isaiah 41:10 says, "Do not fear, for I am with you, do not be dismayed, for I am your God." This verse assures us that Jehovah will be with us in every difficulty and that we should trust in His guidance when making important decisions. Philippians 4:6-7 teaches us not to be anxious about anything, but to pray and trust in Jehovah. By doing so, we can have the peace of God, which will guide us in the decisions we make, such as finding a job or moving, knowing that Jehovah will provide what we need in His due time. Let's look at question number 11. What can help us cope with economic problems? Luke 12:29-31. To cope with economic problems, it is important to talk to Jehovah about our concerns and ask Him for wisdom to make good decisions. We should also pray for inner peace so that we are not overly worried. It is crucial to be content with what we have and look for practical ideas in our publications, such as videos and articles from jw.org that address this topic. Additional comments. Luke 12:29-31 encourages us not to worry too much about what we need because Jehovah knows what we lack and will give us what is necessary. This passage teaches us that we should put our trust in Jehovah, seeking His kingdom and His righteousness, and He will take care of the rest. We should not obsess over material concerns but trust that Jehovah will provide what is needed. In 1 Timothy 6:7-8, we are reminded that, "We brought nothing into this world, and we can take nothing out of it, so we should learn to be content with what we have." This verse teaches us to focus on what is essential and to be grateful for what Jehovah provides, without being led by the desire to accumulate more. Let's look at question number 12. What questions will help a Christian make the best decision for their family? Before making an important decision, such as accepting a new job that involves moving away from family, it is vital to consider not only the economic advantages but also the spiritual consequences. Ask yourself, how will this affect my marriage and my spiritual life? Will I be able to attend meetings, preach, and spend time with the brothers? Additional comments. In Luke 14:28, Jesus teaches us to consider the cost before making an important decision, such as building a tower. Similarly, before accepting a job or moving, we should evaluate the spiritual and family consequences. This verse reminds us of the importance of making decisions based on what is best for our relationship with Jehovah and our family, not just on material aspects. Ephesians 6:4 reminds us that parents should bring up their children in the discipline and instruction of Jehovah. This question is essential when making decisions that affect the family. Just like Tony, who chose to reject a job offer to stay close to his family and follow Jehovah's way, we should apply biblical principles and trust that Jehovah will take care of us if we prioritize His will. Let's move on to the third subtitle, When Making Plans for Old Age. Let's look at question number 13. What can we do now to have what we need in the future? To have what we need in the future, we must work hard and, if possible, save some money to cover our needs. The Bible encourages us to be prudent, as seen in Proverbs 6:6-11, but we must also remember that money should never be the most important thing in our life, as its value is limited. Additional comments. In Proverbs 6:6-11, we are taught to learn from the ant, which prepares in advance for the future. This example encourages us to work diligently and save so that we can cover our material needs without relying solely on luck or others. This verse reminds us that foresight is wise and valuable. Although money can provide protection to some extent, Ecclesiastes 7:12 reminds us that we should not place our trust in it above all else. True security comes from Jehovah, and we must ensure that our priorities are aligned with the spiritual. Money should not dominate our life but serve only as a tool to meet our needs. Let's look at question number 14. How does Hebrews 13:5 help us when making plans for old age? Hebrews 13:5 helps us make plans for old age by reminding us that, while it is important to plan for the future, we should not put our trust in riches. Jehovah promises that He will never leave us or forsake us. When making plans for old age, we must trust that, if things don't turn out as we expected, Jehovah will provide what we need. Additional comments. Hebrews 13:5 teaches us to be content with what we have, as Jehovah has promised that He will never abandon us. This is a reminder that, although planning is important, our trust should be in Jehovah and not in riches. As Jesus explained in Luke 12:16-21, accumulating wealth without being rich toward God has no real value. Jesus taught us that being His disciples means being willing to give up our possessions, showing that our security should not be in material things. In Hebrews 10:34, it shows how early Christians joyfully gave up material things, trusting in Jehovah. This attitude is still important today, as we trust that Jehovah will provide what we need, even if our circumstances change unexpectedly. Let's look at question number 15. How should Christian parents view their children? See also the image. Christian parents should view their children as a blessing and not simply as a way to ensure financial support in old age. The Bible teaches that parents should cover their children's needs, and their greatest joy is helping their children serve Jehovah, not raising them to care for them financially. Additional comments. In 2 Corinthians 12:14, the Bible emphasizes that parents should provide for their children's needs. This passage reminds us that the relationship between parents and children should be one of care and mutual love, not based on a financial agreement. We should focus on the spiritual, helping our children draw closer to Jehovah. 3 John 4 shows that the true satisfaction of Christian parents is seeing their children walk in the truth and serve Jehovah. While parents may need help in their old age, the most important thing is cultivating in children a love for Jehovah, which will bring them eternal joy, beyond any material support. Let's look at question number 16. How can parents prepare their children to earn a living in the future? Ephesians 4:28. Parents can prepare their children to earn a living in the future by setting a good example and teaching them to trust in Jehovah. They should teach them the importance of working hard from an early age. As they grow, they should support them in their studies and help them make wise decisions about their future. Their goal should be to guide them toward jobs that allow them to be self-sufficient and have time to serve Jehovah, even as pioneers. Additional comments. Ephesians 4:28 teaches us that we should work with our hands, not just to meet our needs but also to help others. This principle should be passed on to children so they understand the importance of honest work and personal responsibility, with the goal of supporting their spiritual and material life. Proverbs 29:21 shows that excessive indulgence can lead children to be lazy. Parents should teach their children the importance of diligence in their work and studies. This will not only help them earn a living but also allow them to do what matters most, serving Jehovah. Let's look at question number 17. What are we convinced of? We are convinced that Jehovah can and wants to meet our material needs. Although our trust in Him will be tested as the end of this system approaches, we must fully trust that He will use His power to provide us with what is necessary. We know that His hand will never fall short and will always reach us, no matter where we are. Additional comments. Trust in Jehovah, as mentioned in Exodus 6:6, assures us that His power is unlimited and that He will use that power to meet our needs. This passage reminds us that, regardless of circumstances, we must trust that Jehovah will always provide what is necessary for us. In Psalm 138:6-7, we are assured that Jehovah is near to the humble and will rescue us when we need it. This text strengthens our conviction that no matter what we face, Jehovah will be there to provide us with what is needed, showing that His hand is never too short. Now we will answer the review questions titled, What would you answer? Question 1. What does the experience of Moses and the Israelites teach us? What happened to Moses and the Israelites teaches us the importance of trusting in Jehovah in the midst of difficulties. Although they faced great challenges, such as hunger in the desert, Moses did not doubt Jehovah's ability to provide for them. This reminds us that, even when circumstances are difficult, we must keep our faith in Jehovah and trust that He will provide what is necessary for us. Question 2. How can we demonstrate that we trust in Jehovah when facing economic problems? We can demonstrate that we trust in Jehovah by following His principles, not letting worry about material things dominate us. Instead of focusing solely on how to resolve economic problems, we should seek His kingdom first and trust that He will provide what is necessary. We should also ask for wisdom and act with gratitude and patience, recognizing that Jehovah has control over our lives. Question 3. What should we keep in mind when making plans for old age? When making plans for old age, we should remember that, although it is important to plan and save, we should not place our trust in riches. As Ecclesiastes 7:12 mentions, money is a protection only up to a point, but our true security is in Jehovah. We must balance material plans with our spiritual life, always seeking Jehovah's guidance and trusting that He will provide what we need, even when circumstances change. Well, these have been the answers from this week's Watchtower study. I hope it is very helpful to all of you, my dear brothers and sisters. We'll see each other next week with a new video. I send you a big hug, and may Jehovah always bless and protect you.